welcome to day 6 of Art for the Soul. How are you getting on? I really hope you're enjoying it and you're getting lots of ideas and you're becoming more mindful and thoughtful about your own art process. So in day 6, we're going to be exploring pattern, and we're going to keep it quite simple and basic and the process is part of the whole thing, as you know by now, because you've done all of the exercises, haven't you? You've worked through them all. So this section I've called Patterns of Joy, and this section is about joyfulness and playfulness, and this bit is really important. It's art, yes, can be very serious. We can cover some powerful and impactful feelings and emotions and subjects, and we can get very socially active and political and all of that kind of thing, and that is really important. It's a very important aspect of art. But there's also the playful side and the joyful side that I personally think is very, very important. And I find it very impactful to allow ourselves to play, as I talk about all the time, but especially when we're feeling maybe under the weather or frustrated, or when we're having those negative feelings. If we can start to put in a bit of playfulness, then that can be hugely beneficial to our well-being and just how we feel. So you've got your journal or your sketchbook that you're working on and in, or you could work on a separate piece of paper, that's fine. And what you're going to do is to just choose a simple motif. Now that could be a very simple shape, like a star or a triangle or a heart, or it could be an abstract shape like a blob. And what you're going to do is to use this motif repeatedly in a pattern across the page. Now if you're working in a sketchbook or a journal, you could go across the double page, and you can repeat this pattern either just by memory and by hand, or you could trace the shape and repeat it that way, or use carbon paper, or create a template or a stencil. It doesn't matter. Just repeat the pattern, and each time you repeat the pattern, I just want you to be thinking about the process of putting your pencil or your pen to paper, and just think about how that feels. Give yourself the time. Now, for some of you, you might like to have some music playing in the background, or listen to a story or the radio. Some might just like total silence, and that's absolutely fine. You do whatever works for you. I say this all the time. There are no hard and fast rules. This is art for your soul, and it has to be right for you. So the idea is we're going to be creating a repeated pattern, and this pattern could be quite haphazard all over the page, or it could be quite structured and rhythmic. It doesn't matter. It's how it works out for you. And then what I want you to be doing is to play with different colours in the shapes, or outside of the shapes in the background. Just have a play with this pattern that is now on your double page, and then have a think about how you could develop this pattern. What would happen if you changed the size of the shape, or changed the orientation? What would happen then? What would happen if you used a different medium? If you've used colouring pencils, what would happen if you used paint? What would happen if you changed the colour? How might that feel? Give yourself time for this exercise. This kind of repeated pattern element is a really good way actually to calm your mind and to just have that process. Enjoy that process. Spend time on this, at least 20 minutes, preferably an hour. And it might be something that you come back to And I would recommend that actually you come back to many of these exercises as you have done your reflection, and you might think, right, I'm going to go back to that and see how that now makes me feel, because this is the whole point. This is the whole point. So think about it while you're working, or perhaps just let your mind wander and think about something. Once you've got into a bit of a rhythm, just let your mind allow yourself to daydream. And then when you've completed the page, have some reflection. How did that exercise feel? So I thought I'd show you a few ideas from my sketchbook. Now this one is made by using a template. It's a tessellation pattern, and I did do a tutorial on how to create a tessellation. This is just sort of part of one as well, of making a template like that. I will link it if you want to have a look at that. But you can see with this pattern, I've created it across the double page, and I've just started to doodle in it and illustrate it. With this one, I took the shapes of a jug and a vase, and then I used that shape across the whole page. This is using watercolours and acrylic pen. The other thing that you could do is to cut out shapes. It's just using black paper onto fluorescent paper to create interesting patterns. I'm not sure what I was doing with that one. I did that as a demonstration for one of my children's classes. Or you could use a stencil. So this is a simple flower pattern. Again, I've used watercolour for this, with those sorts of colours, but you can use stencils in lots of different ways, like this one, just sort of, again, sort of repeating some of the patterns quite haphazardly. And then finally, I thought I'd just look at this one, where I was taking these shapes, turning them round. I cut them out in, just a bit of card, and put them onto the page. So once you've created your pattern, it's time to pick up your pen and start to write about the whole process. How do you feel about what you've produced? How did you decide what shape to use, what colours to use? And it's this mindfulness of when we are creating art that can just elevate our practice, which is a really good thing. It's a really good thing. So don't worry about what it looks like. That actually is not important. We are not producing a beautiful piece of art in this. We're just creating this series of patterns that might turn out to be utterly stunning, or it might turn out to be a bit of a mess, and that's okay as well. And go back and have a look at some of the things that you have done previously, reflect on where you are now, and then I'm going to take you in to day 7, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.